Well, here we are again.
I know, TT week, and I'm stuck here.
Mate, go on, what would it take to get you out there? What's the...
We need to go. We need to go and watch. Yeah, we need to go and watch. So, PCR, Paul Curran, OMG Racing are out there at a minute with James Hillier. And then obviously Davo should be riding, but he spanned himself at Alton. Who else do we know out there? There's a couple of quick boys, like Davey Todd's on it at the minute. That boy's a future of the TT. Hickey's done a double, so he's done a stock race and the superbike race. I don't think many people lay a glove on him. For racing it, they've changed the rules now anyway, so you've got to be over 40. Sorry, you can't enter over 40.
Right.
So next year is my last year I can enter, but do you know what, mate? I'm too old now. I'd love to, but that's a lot of risk. It is a lot of risk. I've got 3 kids, a business, a mortgage, a wife that hates me racing anyway after like what's gone on last year. She put up with a lot, like what of a race like 14 years. So I think as I got on the boat, she'd probably phone a divorce lawyer because I don't think it's horrible. Like my friend was not involved, but a good mate of mine, Dan Cooper, raced there for years. And the year Dan Neen crashed, he was another lad we knew really well. Dan Cooper and Dan Neen they were running close together on the road, as in numbers. So you go off, 1 goes off, 10 seconds later 2 goes off, 10 seconds later 3 goes off. So if you're 5, 6 and 7, you're 10, 20, 30 seconds apart. So Dan Neen, Dan Cooper, Steve Mercer, they're all running really close on the roads, and Dan has a big crash, and has a really big crash. It's not nice, doesn't make it through. But of course we all start hearing that Dan's had a massive accident, so we all think it's Dan Cooper. Obviously you don't, like, this is how morbid it is, right? They write phone numbers on the inside of their levers, so people, marshals who find them or who help them, know who to ring. Like, it's, for as amazing it is as it is, the place at times is harrowing.
Yep.
It's terrifying. Like, today's just been released now that on Saturday the sidecar outfit had crashed, and I know some mates who race in that, some real fast mates. Like Alan messed himself up and he's not racing it there this year, but his brother's racing, so he got second in the sidecar race. But Saturday when they run the first one, got red flagged because an outfit had a crash, and they declared the wrong one had passed away. Like, not cool, you know. And if they've just released today now that the Isle of Man TT made a mistake and named. Now we wear dog tags.
Okay, yeah.
So, but
even so,
sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's in the rules that you should wear them, but we've gone out and not. Like, on short circuits, it's different, especially like when your name's on the RC levers and your bike's recognisable and stuff like that. So, like, you know, I can watch MotoGP or British Superbikes or World Superbikes and see the bike, not see the number, and know who it is. Do you know what I mean? Yep. You just know, you know, like when you see commentators watching F1 and 2 cars are always, they know. It's the same kind of thing. So you think on a sidecar outfit, they normally wear the same helmets, same levers, same boots. And it's just, yeah, that's really unfortunate. But let's not talk about the bad times there, because it is amazing. Like, I've been a couple of times and I do love it. And I think if you're a bike fan, it's because you don't race someone else, you're racing yourself. Yeah. That's why people really go for it. But like Davey Todd, like running amazing in the superbike class, and his tyre comes apart. So Davey Todd missed out, but he did well in a stocker race. That boy's going to be mega. Glenn Irwin, Faster 7 newcomer. So he's just won now. He's just come off the Northwest. He's done 6 superbike wins at Northwest, gone to TT. Mate, 129 lap out of the bag. I think I could do a million fucking laps around there and never get a 129. You know, there's boys who've raced there for a long, long time and never done a 129. So like, he's amazing. I think Hickey's just gapped everyone else now. But mate, this is supposed to be an engine video and we're talking about bike racing.
We've gone off on a tangent again.
Completely.
But, hey,
it's TT week, so there's no racing today, racing tomorrow, so it's a good job we're doing video today.
So, engine.
Anyway, 720S engine. A poorly 720S engine. So this has been dropped off to us like this. It's been dropped out of the car with a tapping noise, tippity tap tap. I already know what's wrong because I've had a look, but I've just put the covers on and thought I'd just quickly show you. So we'll just pull some bolts off quick. So we've got rocker cover, 2 cam sensors, because obviously it's variable cams on both inlet and exhaust. Right. So the crankshaft drives one timing gear via a chain, which is the exhaust, and then the inlet is driven on the cam, on the sprocket. So it's gear to gear. So you've got exhaust cam, inlet cam, and then you've got the buckets, which we've spoken about in other videos. But if I just pull, you can just about see that. I don't think I've got to get another socket because I didn't bring a crank turning one. I think that's all I need to pull off that side. Same again this side. So just 2 cam sensors, plastic rocker cover, and there you are in. And on this side it's opposite, so the chain drives the inlet and then the gears drive the exhaust. So it's like, it's not mirrored like you'd expect, it's offset. If I pull this front cover off. So you can see bottom of the chains. Noticeably tighter, Davey. There we go. What's on this front cover now? Oh, we're stuck on a stud. Come on, sweetheart.
Jiggly jiggly.
Jiggly jiggly, mate. There we go. So, the answer to why this engine has a problemo is currently dripping on my floor. So, if I sit down next to you. So you've got 2 ancillary drives, you've got compound gear in the centre. So if you can see here, look, you've got crankshaft, compound gear, so that's got 1, 2 chain drives on it, and then the main sprocket in the back which interferes with the crank. So it's essentially crankshaft, compound gear. So if you took all the timing chains off, you just turn this gear when you turn the crankshaft, and then that gear then drives the camshafts. That make sense?
Yep.
Makey sensey? Yeah. So we set the mesh by shimming this right. We can set the mesh on that gear, so we can set the backlash on the gear because, of course, it's an interference fit. So that's something we check when we build them, right? Then you've obviously got oil pump drive on one side and water pump drive on the other side, which are these two. Then, so when you buy a timing chain kit for certain ones, you get all that lot, and then you obviously get water pump kit, timing kit, and an oil timing kit, right? So this has got a tapping noise, so one of the variators has gone, and the reason we know that is when we turn it over, the variator skips, so it'll turn around and it'll skip, and it'll turn around and it'll skip. Now Kevin Pritchett in America has done a video cutting one of these open and showing the insides of them. So these look like the old V12 Lamborghini ones, and the reason they have problems is because when there's no oil pressure, then the cam, so if you can imagine a camshaft through the middle and where the chain drives are 2 separate pieces. They're on a bearing, but they're not mechanically linked. What links them when the engine's running is oil pressure. So if you can, it's essentially like a torque converter with limit stops on it. It can only go one way. And then that's how we control the valve timing, by putting oil pressure either side of the vane. We can control it back and forth. We'll do a video on opening one up because I've got some Lambo ones we can open. But that's how you control variable valve timing. So you can control via oil pressure the angle of the camshaft, between the camshaft and the sprocket, by changing the oil pressure inside the chambers. What happens is when that oil pressure falls away and the engine falls back to idle, there's a mechanical pin inside this that sits in the backing plate, and when a pin drops in, that's it, mechanically locked. So when you take these off, they're lock solid as one piece, right? And then you can get a pick and you can push the pin, you can get hold of the pin and push it, and then you can move it back and forth, and there's a spring on the exhaust ones, not an inlet, but you can move them. What happens is the backing plate is not the best material and the pin's tiny, and as it tries to engage, or it doesn't engage enough, and then what happens is it just rounds off the dog, and it rounds it off, and it rounds it off, and it rounds it off. So then when you go to start the car up and there's not enough oil pressure, it actually jumps out of the locking of the retainer, and then what can happen is it can float. So it comes to a certain point in the rotation where the valve spring will make a camshaft jump. Everybody's done like a cam belt before, turned an engine over and it's gone so far in a ratchet and then it's like carried itself on, and that's because the valve spring's pushing back on the cam. So when the cam ramps over and the valve spring's pushing back on it, it'll push it. So that's where you kind of get that rocking motion on an engine, and the same thing happens then when you're cranking it over, because the cam and the sprocket are not mechanically linked when it's cranking over, you get that jump, and it just rocks back and forth. So when you turn it over, this will literally just turn, and then jump, turn, and then jump. So that's more common on these, and again, I think it's because of that. I mean, like, look at it. It's hanging, like proper hanging, all right? That should be golden brown. If you're draining stuff like that out of your engine, like if we had that in and we drained that out, we'd be saying, oh, we probably should do like a 30-40 mile engine flush, literally fill it with oil and flush back out, but that is disgusting. I mean...
Do we know the history of the car, what it's been used for?
No, well, it's one of the problem is, and it's the same with the 570, we look after it outside, is this one's an experience car or a track car. So it gets a hard life, which is fine, this is what they're designed for, but oil is a hydraulic fluid, a lubricant, a coolant, and if you were to draw like, should we use oil to draw a little diagram?
You could try.
Yeah, let's see if we can do it, right? So if you say that's lubrication, right, and that's hydraulic ability, got plenty of ink, and that's coolant, right? When oil's in good condition, it kind of does that. It sits in the middle, yeah? It's got all even properties. Mate, this is genius. I love this. It's got all even properties, right? So when you start to degrade oil, yeah, let's say this one's temp, the more and more you run it, and the more you make it, the more demand you put on the oil to deal with the temperature, it's got to give. It's got to give on something else. So normally you would say oil can deal with the temperature, but then because it's used to working at that high operating, then say you've got to change the service intervals, because all you're going to do is you're just going to degrade it in other areas. It might deal with the temperature, but then it's going to pick up more debris because you're using the engine in a harder state, or it's going to run closer to its limits. And the second you start picking up things like carbon and stuff like that, then the oil's getting its ability to deal with those demands get less and less and less. Do you like my board, Carl?
Very nice.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, thanks, mate. It makes sense in my head. And then when I'm scribbling on my floor in oil,
Just don't get mixed up and do that
I know.
with Sharpie.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so what happens is it's high RPM, high load, high temp. Then you've obviously got all the combustion debris, because you always get carbon blow by, and the oil just is worked harder and harder and harder, and something gives. So in this case, what started to give is the lubrication properties. So, I don't know whether you can see this. If I put a light on, like we've got marks now on the cams. So like if you look here, it started to pick up on the cams. Yeah, where's my phone? I want my phone to make sure I've got a light on my phone. Alright. Can you see that there? You see that? I don't know how well you can see it. you can zoom in.
Hang on.
Zoom in right where my finger is. There's a little blemish, a little mark. And the camera's not really doing a great job picking it out because I'm looking at the screen with you. But that's a crater. Like, that is huge. It's just there. And what's happened is the tip of the cam's worn off. See if we can find a better one this side. But like, you can see, like, even then, mate, I don't know whether you can see that, like how scrubbed that camshaft looks.
If I could just come
There.
over the top there.
Can you see the tone change?
Yep.
Sorry, mate. Like, the camera's not. Here, that might be a better one, mate. If you go there, you can see it's dull and then goes really shiny on the lobe. The cams are knackered, and we've already looked at the rockers, and the rockers are pulled to bits. They've just got graining all the way through them. So we've got new cams coming, new rockers, and then obviously we've got 4 new variators and timing chain kit to go on it. But this thing, literally turn it over and it goes tap, 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 tap. So, change your oil, folks.
You heard it here first.
I know. I don't know what I was waiting for then, is like someone else to join in. Yeah, I mean, the other thing to watch out on these is plastic oil filter housings. So people over tighten these and they crack them. They crack them down the sides, they literally split the housing. But how cool is this for like a packaged engine? I mean, they're tiny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'd say with like the V10 Lambo stuff, their crank is a lot taller. So if I sat one side by side, between the base of the sump and the centre line of the crankshaft's really shallow. So the engine sits really low in a chassis. Like, you think that's hanging out, that's the bottom of the car.
Yeah.
So a crankshaft's super low, whereas in the V10 stuff, by the time the oil pump, this lower girdle and the sump's on, you'd probably say that's your crank centre line, right? And then your headers on the V10s are underslung. So how they're packaged is completely different. Like, the headers isn't up, but like that's the top of the manifold and that's above your cams. So they've worked really hard to drop the centre of gravity on the powertrain really low. But you look at it and it's like, apart from the two thermostats, which is these two here, we use similar kind of oil coolers, we use similar kind of filter cartridge. Well, I think the filters for these, we did one the other week, didn't we? What did we service on? 675, didn't we? Like, the filter's like 16 quid. It's like 3 times the price on an Audi. Then you've obviously got electronic wastegates on a 720. So these are TD05 turbos or TD05 frame. So you've got electric wastegates, electric blow-off valves, whereas on like the earlier ones, or rather the TD04 frame turbos, they're normally pneumatic. So they're pressure controlled. So these are a better frame turbo. Yeah.
Happy days.
It is, mate. I mean, look at it, it's mint. Like, I haven't really got to do much else. The worst bit is going to be, I've got to shim it.
Yep.
Yep. And I hate shimming engines. I hate it. Because, obviously, the cams have got to come out. So, what I'll probably do is, leave it as it is, build it with new cams, and measure them, and then go back then and do my maths on a shimming. But like, if you've ever shimmed a motorbike engine, that's horrible. And there's twice as many to do on this. So it'd be alright, it'd be cool. It'd be right as rain when it's done. I'll get them to, pretty similar story to the GT3 engine we stripped.
Yeah.
Do you remember the sort of state on that and how wiped everything was?
Yeah.
But all that is just change your oil. Just change your oil. I'm not a big fan of long life servicing anyway. I know these aren't, but if you're doing track work or you use it hard and fast all the time, then not necessarily change filter, just change your oil. Do you know what I mean? If your filter's only done 1,500, 2,000 miles, but you're about to go and do 3-4 track days on a bounce, just change it. And the quality of the oil now, you can't just go to I don't know, ECP or GSF or any of those and buy like, you know, 888 oil or anything like that. We use like Motul 300V or Motul 8100. So you've got to use proper products that are designed to support the demands of this, and designed to support the oil temp as well. Not all oils are created equal. What they can handle oil temperature wise are two different things, and that's ultimately where it starts to then cause you problems, is when oil temperature gets so high, the oil basically starts to break down, and that's where you start to get problems then.
So any issues with your McLaren, you know what to do.
Give us a shout. Change your oil first. There are conrods hanging out the side. Change your oil.
Yep, that'll fix it.
Rule 1.
No worries.
Yeah. It's a funny story, right? Going back 10, 11 years when we were running, Skoda UK were running Andreas Mikkelsen in IRC. Proton were racing as well. And the funny thing is Proton they'd never finish a rally, right? It'd always blow up. But the official press release every round was an electrical failure. Yeah, the electrical failure was the rod taken out of the alternator every time the engine went bang. Like, that was the standing joke. But yeah, these are mint. So everything's on order. We'll have a nice bag of parts turning up. So we might have to get you back up when we
well, it'd be nice to see it going in and then see.
Yeah, we won't. Yeah, it'd be nice to see everything going in. We won't see the engine running.
Yep.
Because it'll go back to the company that took it out. So we're building it for them. But yeah, it'll be. It'd be good to sort of put it back together and show you how we time it up and stuff like that. So get it on the engine stand, because I've got proper McLaren plates for our big engine stand.
Happy days. Cheers, buddy. So until the next time, you know what to do.
Yeah, we'll see you in about 5 minutes when we do the next video, because that's how it works here. A week gap on YouTube.
Yeah.
The power of YouTube. So, in the comments, it'll already be done. Race week will be done. So I reckon Dunlop for Supersport race. It's a given, isn't it? Hickey's going to do the second Superstock and the senior, but Davey Todd will podium in both big bike races. You read it here first. And go on YouTube and look at Davey Todd, Isle of Man, elbow down. Bosh.
See you later, bud.
See you later.